So this week I'm doing an art redo of this older painting of a chickadee that appears to be decaying with different types of mushrooms on it. I don't quite remember the story behind it, but there's a lot of clues here. I like to use chickadees as a symbol of the worker, because these birds always seem to be busy no matter how unpleasant the weather situation is. So they seem very strong-willed to me. I really like them. We have the suggestion of darkness, some anxiety-inducing lines in the background, and there's decay, which makes me think of apathy and submission. Well, from the bird's point of view anyway. It was probably about developing a distrust in the workplace scenario. I've definitely had some managers in the past who would say positive things about my work, but they would still give me really terrible shifts and they'd pay me less than everyone else. So it kind of always felt like I was being lied to constantly. But anyway, the original painting wasn't very good. I wasn't doing much for backgrounds yet, and I'm not sure why I wanted it to be so big. The scale just feels way off. I kept it around because I do love the geometric shape of the basket fungus, but there's just so much empty space in this image that just looks boring. It's also done on a cheap hot press paper, and the colors are very pale and patchy as a result. I thought about just cropping it to reduce the space, but thought it would be simple enough of an image just to redo it entirely. So back when I was taking studio classes, there was a discussion that had left a small imprint on me and might be encouraging to others. I don't know. The discussion was about the fear of using up all of your good ideas before you're actually good enough at painting or drawing to honor them properly in a way that, makes you satisfied. And I think this topic came up in a roundabout way in pastry school too. And the response that we got from instructors is that our learning stage is going to be the most freedom we'll ever have when it comes to our craft, right? So we were encouraged to experiment as much as possible while we still had access to these lovely creation spaces, the studio, the tools, the ingredients, and most of all, our time. And this kind of goes back to that recent trend of turning art into a skills grind, where if your ultimate goal is to become good and ready for real art, in quotes, you're not going to have any fun. And things that aren't fun end up getting abandoned. So you don't have to wait until you're good enough to tell your story or make your art piece. A lot of my student peers, and I felt it a little bit too, we were really kind of afraid of having a really good idea to paint something and then doing it and then feel like we wasted our good idea when we still kind of just sucked at painting and making art and communicating through the visual art form and stuff like that, as if once you make something, you can never do it again. If it doesn't work in the moment, if you really can't make it look the way you want it to, just keep it, let it stew for a little bit, because sometimes maybe you do have to build up a little bit of skill to be satisfied with the results, and sometimes it's just a matter of not really planning it enough or giving the idea enough thought to develop into something juicy, you know what I mean? And if you do make it, but you end up not liking the painting anymore later on, like in this case, you can always redo it and redo it better. I reuse old ideas all the time. So this new version, the bird is way more interesting because I gave it more of an action pose, almost as if maybe he's sick of being passive. I really didn't put that much thought into it, but it's fun. It's fun to think I did. I made the light more interesting because it's now a physalis berry instead of just a glowing orb. That's another idea I stole from an old painting. I get to use higher quality materials now, and so the color soaks into the paper and spreads out smoothly so it looks nice. The composition has a much better flow to it. It creates this visual circle that draws your eye from the bird through the mushrooms on the right, past the light, and then back into the swirl again, and that traps the viewer into the square so that you don't immediately walk away when you look at it. And to think that this is an image that I would have completely forgotten about if I hadn't used it already when I wasn't ready, in quotes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.